Hi there, Phineas MacGuire Erupts. Chapter 1. My name is Phineas Listerman MacGuire. Most people call me Mac. It's okay if you call me Finn. You can even call me Phineas. Forget about calling me Listerman. I am allergic to 15 things. My mom says this is not true, that I'm only allergic to 2 things, peanuts and cat hair. But I am a scientist, and she's not. I have scientific proof that it makes me itchy to think about the following items: avocados, yogurt, any flavor, cottage cheese, grape jelly, any kind of kissing, especially when there's lipstick, celery, purple flowers, purple magic markers, purple crayons, anything purple, moist towelettes in foil packs, telephone calls, and all girls. I started 4th grade 3 weeks ago. When I started, I had a best friend. His name was Marcus Ballou. Marcus is also a scientist. We were a scientific team. We specialized in volcanoes, caves, fossils, all insects, and the solar system, but mostly volcanoes. We have made and erupted over 87 volcanoes in our lifetime. It's very simple. You take an empty soda bottle, big, and put it in a baking pan, also big. Fill the bottle with lots of baking soda and 4 or 5 squirts of dishwashing liquid. Then add vinegar and stand back. You should do it outside in case you were wondering. Unless you have a less irritated mom than mine, then maybe you could do it on the kitchen table. If you're like me and spill stuff everywhere, even when you're trying really hard to be careful, you should definitely do it at a friend's house. Here's the problem with Marcus. He moved to Lawrence, Kansas. This is bad for at least 2 reasons. Now we aren't a scientific team anymore. Also, he waited until the 2nd week of school to move. If he had moved before school started, then I would have known to look around for a new best friend on the first day. But I didn't know to do this. I still had Marcus. Everybody knew that me and Marcus were best friends and a scientific team. No one else tried to be best friends with us. They picked other best friends. Here's what you would hear all the time: Mac and Marcus, Mac and Marcus, Mac and Marcus. Now all you hear is Mac, Mac, Mac. Scientifically speaking, it's a pretty lonely sound. Here's a little picture of a volcano experiment. Chapter 2, new picture. I do not have a best friend. I do have an unbest friend. Here's the weird thing. His name is also Mac. Mac Robbins, also known as Mac R in our class, since we have 2 Macs. He moved here this year from Seattle, Washington. The first day of school, our teacher, Mrs. Tuttle, made the 3 new kids stand up in front of the class, one at a time, and say a few words about themselves. 2 of the kids shuffled their feet and said they were used to where they used to live, and stuff like their hobbies were playing on their Game Boys and watching TV, and their favorite class was lunch. Mac R did not shuffle his feet. He looked everybody straight in the eye and said, "I'm from Seattle, Washington. Everything is better in Seattle, including the ice cream, the road signs, and the television shows." Then he said children from Seattle, Washington are naturally geniuses. He said children from our state are not. Quite a first impression, Mac R, Mrs. Tuttle said when Mac R was done, making everyone in our class automatically hate him. She took one of the rubber frogs from the rubber frog collection she keeps on her desk and put it on her head to put us in a better mood. It didn't work. We still hated Mac R, and it got worse. The next day he tripped Chester Oliphant on his way to the pencil sharpener. Chester is the size of a kindergartner, but he's the funniest kid in our class, so everyone likes him and sticks up for him out on the playground. He is the wrong person in our class to pick on. Mac R said it was an accident, but nobody believed him. Marcus, who only had 3 days left at our school before going to Lawrence, Kansas, said having Mac R in our class almost made him glad he was moving away. 2 days after that, Mac R wore a Woodbrook Elementary School t-shirt, only he'd put a big red circle around the school logo and then a slash through the circle. Excuse me. It was like he wished our whole school didn't even exist. We felt the same way about him. Got a tickle. When I first heard there was another Mac in the 4th grade, I was interested from a scientific angle. I had never met another Mac before. I wondered if we would look anything alike. Maybe we would dream about the same things at night. Maybe we would have the same habits, such as drawing on our bedroom walls with chapstick. The picture shows up about 2 weeks later, when enough dust has stuck to the chapstick wax, or waiting 3 months to empty the trash can in our room so that any thrown away half-eaten snack foods like bananas or grapes have decomposed into a pile of slimy goop. I wouldn't recommend that. Here's what I know now. We do not have one thing in common. MacGuire is short, with stick-out brown hair and freckles. He picks his nose when he thinks nobody is looking. I'm tall for my age. I only pick my nose when I know for sure nobody is looking. MacGuire loves dinosaurs. He's in love with them. He has the dinosaurs of the Cretaceous age lunchbox and 3 dinosaur t-shirts, Stegosaurus, Iguanodon, and Triceratops, that he wears over and over. Marcus and I liked dinosaurs back in preschool, mostly when we were 3-day 3s and 4-day 4s, and maybe a little bit in kindergarten. In 1st grade, we gave up dinosaurs completely. Okay, maybe sometimes I take out my supersized T-Rex and let it stomp on my Legos, but only once in a while. And I'm not in love with it. The funny thing is, once I started thinking about things I have in common with other people, I realized that I didn't have everything in common with Marcus either. We both love science and performing scientific experiments, and we both have dads who are teachers. Only Marcus lives with his dad, and my dad lives 200 miles away from me. Marcus collects baseball cards, and I collect dried worms. I want to win the world record for the longest dried earthworm ever recorded, but I will probably have to move to Australia, where they have the world's longest worms to actually do this. Marcus is neat. At the end of 3rd grade, I won the awards for the messiest desk and the person least likely to comb his hair before coming to school in the morning. My teacher made up that award especially for me. Marcus loses his temper and yells at people and then isn't mad at all 5 minutes later. Frankie Wasserman punched me in the nose in the 1st grade, and I still want to sock him one every time I see him. Today at lunch, the person I have nothing in common with, Mac R, sat at my table. It's the table for people who don't have anyone else to sit with. Mason Cutwilder was there, setting up his little green army guys to attack Roland Forth's peanut butter sandwich. Roland Forth sat across from him. He hummed. Roland Forth is always humming. It's like having a radio going on all the time when you're in the same class as Roland Forth. I sat at the other end of the table reading Scientific American, which is an important magazine that all scientists read, even if they don't understand all the vocabulary. I was reading letters to the editor when Mac R plopped his tray on the table next to me. We had picked exactly the same things from the cafeteria line, except his Jell-O was green and mine was red. And mine had milk sloshed all over it from when I accidentally knocked over my milk carton with my copy of Scientific American. No one looked up when Mac R sat down. Part of sitting at the table for people who don't have anybody else to sit with is pretending no one else exists. I don't know why that makes sitting there less bad, but it does. Mac R didn't know the rules of sitting at this table. He started talking immediately. He said that when his permanent records arrived at Woodbrook Elementary, we would know for sure that he was the smartest boy in Mrs. Tuttle's class and the whole 4th grade. His permanent records would be official proof. Roland Forth stopped humming for a second, but probably a lot of the girls are smarter. Girls are always the smartest. Roland Forth is the only boy in the 4th grade who would point this fact out. For the most part, other boys don't like Roland Forth. Mac R frowned. He said, "There are no smart girls." He probably should have said that more quietly. "What do you mean there are no smart girls?" Aretha Timmons leaned over from her lunch table and gave Mac R the evil eye. "Everybody knows girls are the smartest ones. There's scientific proof." My ears got all tingly when I heard the word scientific proof. When you're a scientist like me, you're always on the lookout for scientific conversations. You won't find many in the cafeteria of Woodbrook Elementary. Mac R stuffed a roll in his mouth. "Girls are stupid. They play with dolls. They wear pink shoes." Aretha stuck out her foot. Her shoe was a navy blue sneaker with silver stripes. It was not pink. "Mrs. Tuttle doesn't wear pink shoes either," Aretha said. "You don't know it very much, do you? Mrs. Tuttle wears green high-top shoes every day. She says they make her bouncy like a frog. All in all, Mrs. Tuttle would be a very good teacher, except that she wears too much purple. It doesn't match her yellow hair or her green shoes. Also, it makes me itch just to see it. Mrs. Tuttle is different, MacGuire said. She's a teacher. Teachers have to be smart. Besides, she's a grown-up. She's not a girl. Aretha marched over to our table and pointed her fork at MacGuire. He jumped back in his seat, like he was afraid she was going to poke him. Okay, there's two pictures I want to show. This is of Aretha, showing her not pink shoes. And then here is a picture at the lunch table. I could tell she wasn't going to poke him. She just wanted to make a point. I'll prove it that girls are smarter than boys, Aretha said, or at least that I'm smarter than you. I'm reading on the 6th grade level, for one thing. MacGuire's face turned red. You could tell he didn't read on the 6th grade level. For another thing, I'll beat you at the 4th grade science fair in 2 weeks, Aretha said. She put her fork back on her tray and smiled. Aretha is the only person I know who is as excited about the 4th grade science fair as I am. She is also my only serious competitor, at least in Mrs. Tuttle's class. I wonder what project she'll do. I wonder if she likes volcanoes. I wish girls didn't make me itch. End of chapter 2.